Greetings everyone, my name is G-Rod and this is Let's Build, where I build a Lego set timed to different media and talk about the facts concerning the topic of the build. How many games of a series will it take to complete the set? To find out, let's build. Today's topic is Lego Sonic the Hedgehog Green Hill Zone versus Sonic Origins Anniversary Collection. Alright, celebrate a pop culture icon, showcase the gameplay of a true classic with this LEGO Ideas Sonic the Hedgehog Green Hill Zone model. Enjoy quality time with no distractions, creating authentic details of the Green Hill Zone, including a palm tree, bridge loop, rings, TV screens, Dr. Eggman's Eggmobile, and a spring for Sonic super jumps. Arrange the level in your own way and bring it to life with a Sonic the Hedgehog minifig and Dr. Eggman, Motobug, and crab meat figures. Step-by-step building instructions are included and, like in the game, you can collect Chaos Emeralds as you progress. A display stand for the 7 emeralds and Sonic minifig completes a colorful centerpiece. All in all, it's the best Sonic nostalgia gift for yourself or any fan. Welcome to LEGO's Sets for Adults, a space to relax and build detailed models that pay homage to the worlds of gaming, history, travel, sport, science, technology, and entertainment. Recreate the Green Hill Zone in LEGO bricks. Recapture the magic of Sonic the Hedgehog with this Ideas LEGO model of an all-time classic platform game level. Sonic the Hedgehog Lego minifig plus brick-built figures of Dr. Eggman and his buildable Eggmobile, Motobug with 2 face options, and crab meat. Build a palm tree, bridge loop, and lever-activated spring for supersonic jumps, plus 7 rings and 2 buildable TVs with 5 screen elements and 5 sticker options. Collect Chaos Emeralds just like in the game, earn an emerald for every build you complete, and display all 7 on the stand with Sonic. This 1,125-piece LEGO model makes a nostalgic birthday or holiday gift for millennial Sonic the Hedgehog fans who enjoy mindful activities to unwind. The buildable Green Hill Zone measures in over 7 inches high, 14 inches wide, and 2.5 inches deep. It may be rearranged and connects easily with extra sets. Includes a premium quality illustrated booklet featuring the set's fan designer and LEGO designers, plus illustrated instructions to ease the building experience. This set for adults is one of many exciting LEGO Ideas sets, each created by a fan designer, voted for by thousands of LEGO fans, and produced by the LEGO Group. From the Sega fan creation to LEGO fan creation, a fan-designed LEGO model inspired by the original Sonic the Hedgehog Sega game is simply a match made in play heaven. In fact, Sega has a long history of working on successful collaborations with dedicated fans. The Sonic Mania game was created with the help of 2 fans turned professionals, developer Kristen Taxman Whitehead, and illustrator and director Tyson Hesse, to celebrate the game's 25th anniversary. It went on to become one of the most popular Sonic games to date. Tyson Hesse also recently worked on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie released in 2020. In the true spirit of Sega Genesis, LEGO fan designer Viv Grinnell has taken Sonic fan works to the next level. In her Green Hill Zone, she recreated the game's pixelated graphics and gameplay so vividly with LEGO bricks and packed it with humorous nods to the classic game and the cool, cute, and quirky characters we have loved for 30 years. The Sonic and LEGO fan communities rallied around the project from the very beginning. Viv took the time to read and reply to every comment and suggestion, and surprised and enthralled everyone with her creative new updates and details along the way. celebrating 30 years of Sonic the Hedgehog. In 1991, an ultra-fast, clever, and charming blue hedgehog with spiky hairdo and big red sneakers took the gameplay world by storm. People of all ages were drawn into a semi-psychedelic, pinball-like world of tantalizing colors and action to help their hero collect heroes and free South Island and the Chaos Emeralds from Dr. Ivo Robotnik, better known as the brilliant evil genius Dr. Eggman. For 30 years, fans have embraced the most famous hedgehog in the world and followed him through thick and thin and countless loop-de-loops. Nearly 100 different 2D, 3D, racing, arcade, console, computer, and mobile game iterations, spin-offs, and game collections later, not to mention toys, merchandise, comic books, a TV series, movies, we still love Sonic the Hedgehog. Now you can build a fun, authentic, hands-on recreation of the timeless 90s gameplay and send Sonic on new adventures against this dastardly Dr. Eggman and his creations, the Badniks, Crabmeat, and Motobug. Meet fan designer Viv Grinnell, who lives in the UK. She studied computer science and loves making art, reading and writing short stories, and programming for hobbyist video games. I've loved the Sonic series since I was a little kid. His vibrant, colorful world is always a fantastic place to explore, and his endearing friends have quite the range. Not to mention, it's always a blast to blow up robots and race for rings. This Green Hill set represents the quintessential starting point of Sonic's many adventures, and it's one of the most famous and iconic video game levels of all time. I submitted the model in 2019 and updated it in January of 2020 as the pandemic began. And for me, this project was a way to connect with other people and share my passion and joy with them. During difficult times together, it's our passion and compassion and those who entertain us like toy makers that keep our spirits going, and with the LEGO ideas, anyone can become a toy maker. I'm eternally grateful to the Sonic fans and LEGO Ideas community who helped me make this set come to life. The LEGO team is quoted as also saying, "As a big fan, I wanted the Sonic minifig to be iconic and classic. It was a fun challenge to recreate the pixelated graphics from the game. I hope fans will enjoy the extra stickers, item boxes, and Motobug, so that they can customize the model." From Lauren Cullen King, the LEGO senior graphic designer. As well as, Viv's model is so charming and in style with classic games. She built it in modules like the game levels, and finished the set is pieced together in that way too. It was great working with her and the Sega designers, modifying details to give fans a great Sonic experience. From Samuel Littrope Johnson, LEGO Design Manager. Sorry about that. Got a little stumbled. All right, so a bit of housekeeping before I talk about the history of the games. I will not be playing any of the excellent soundtrack or music from my childhood for copyright reasons. If you plan on playing the games for yourself, do play with the music. It haunted me having to play without it, especially when some of the key jingles are missing. For instance, the music changes for some of the power-ups, which gives the player a sense of timing for when it is going to end, as well as missing the dreaded, anxiety-inducing running out of air tune that plays when Sonic is underwater. From having to play and retry the game from the beginning so many times as a kid, I can tell you that most of the music and jingles, were still playing in my head anyway. Since I am playing the Origins Anniversary updated version, there are some quality of life improvements, such as allowing the player to do a downspin in the first game and not having to worry about lives or continues, and allowing you to retry bonus levels. There is a classic mode that features the original game presentation with the more squared off screen, and will play in the classic finite lives and game over style. I choose to play with the anniversary mode for the better viewing size and quality, and for game completion. I feel I've earned this break since I had to suffer through the era of no saves the first time around. I will not be repeating any of the bonus levels, except for one when I accidentally hit the button, because that wasn't an option back in the day. I'm not going to be using any cheat codes or glitch moves either. Sonic the Hedgehog is a video game series and media franchise created by Japanese developers Yuji Naka, Naoto Oshima, and Hirokazu Yasuhara for Sega. The franchise follows Sonic, an anthropomorphic blue hedgehog who battles the evil Dr. Eggman, a mad scientist. The main Sonic the Hedgehog games are platformers mostly developed by Sonic Team. Other games developed by various studios include spin-offs in racing, fighting, party, and sports genres. The franchise also incorporates printed media, animations, feature films, and plenty of merchandise. Naka, Oshima, and Yasuhara developed the first Sonic game, released in 1991 for the Sega Genesis, to provide Sega with a mascot to compete with Mario's in Nintendo. Its success helped Sega become one of the leading video game companies during the fourth generation of video game consoles in the early 1990s. Sega Technical Institute developed the next 3 Sonic games, plus the spin-off Sonic Spinball from 1993. A number of Sonic games were also developed for Sega's 8-bit consoles, the Master System and Game Gear. After a hiatus of the unsuccessful Saturn era, the first major 3D Sonic game, Sonic Adventures, was released in 1998 for the Dreamcast. Sega exited the console market and shifted to third-party development in 2001, continuing the series on Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation systems. Takashi Iizuka has been the series producer since 2010. And I do apologize if I am pronouncing names wrong. Sorry about that. Sonic's recurring elements include a ring-based health system, health locales such as Green Hill Zone, and fast-paced gameplay. The games typically feature Sonic setting out to stop Eggman's schemes for world domination, and the player navigates levels that include springs, slopes, bottomless pits, and vertical loops. Later games added a large cast of characters, some, such as Miles Tails Prower, Knuckles the Echidna, and Shadow the Hedgehog, have starred in their own spin-offs. The franchise has crossed over with other video game franchises in games such as Mario and Sonic, Sega All-Stars, and Super Smash Bros. Outside of video games, Sonic includes comic books published by Archie Comics, Fleetway Publications, and IDW Publishing. Animated series were produced by DIC Entertainment, TMS Entertainment, Janelle Productions, and Netflix. A live-action film series produced by Paramount Pictures, and toys including the Lego construction set. Sonic the Hedgehog is Sega's flagship franchise and one of the best-selling video game franchises, selling over 140 million copies by 2016 and grossing over $5 billion as of 2014. Series sales and free-to-play mobile game downloads totaled 1.77 billion as of 2024. The Genesis Sonic games have been described as representative of the culture of the 90s and listed among the greatest of all time. Although later games, such as the 2006 game, received poorer reviews, Sonic is still influential in the video game industry and is frequently referenced in pop culture. The franchise is known for its fandom that produces unofficial media such as fan art and fan games. By 1990, the Japanese video game company Sega wanted a foothold in the video game console market with its 16-bit console, the Sega Genesis. Sega's efforts have been stymied by the dominance of the Nintendo Entertainment System. The Genesis did not have a large install base, and Nintendo did not take Sega seriously as a competitor. Sega of America CEO Michael Katz attempted to challenge Nintendo with the slogan, "Genesis does what Nintendo don't" marketing campaign, and by collaborating with athletes and celebrities to make and create games. These efforts did not break Nintendo's dominance, and Katz was replaced by Tom Kalinske, formerly of Mattel. It's Tom Kalinske, that's an I. Sega president Hayao Nakayama decided Sega needed a flagship series and mascot to compete with Nintendo's Mario franchise. Nintendo had recently released Super Mario Bros. 3, at the time the best-selling video game ever. Sega's strategy had been based on porting its successful arcade games to the Genesis. However, Nakayama recognized that Sega needed a star character in a game that could demonstrate the power of the Genesis hardware. An internal contest was held to determine a flagship game, with focus on the American audience. Among the teams working on the proposals were artist Naoto Yoshima and programmer Yuji Naka. The gameplay of Sonic the Hedgehog from 1991 originated with a tech demo created by Naka, who had developed an algorithm that allowed a sprite to move smoothly on a curve by determining its position with a dot matrix. Naka's prototype was a platform game that involved fast-moving character rolling in a ball through a long winding tube. Sega management accepted the duo's project, and they were joined by designer Hirokazu Yasuhara. After Yasuhara joined Naka and Oshima, their focus shifted to the protagonist, who Sega hoped would become its mascot. The protagonist was initially a rabbit able to grasp objects with its prehensile ears, but the concept proved too complex for the hardware. The team moved on to animals that could roll into a ball and eventually settled on Sonic, a teal hedgehog created by Oshima. Naka's prototype was expanded with Oshima's character design and levels conceived by Yasuhara. Sonic's color was chosen to match Sega's cobalt blue logo, and his red and white shoes were inspired by the cover of Michael Jackson's 1987 album Bad. His personality was based on the then governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton's can-do attitude. The antagonist, Dr. Eggman, was another character Oshima had designed for the contest. The team thought the abandoned design was excellent and redesigned it as a villain. The team took the name Sonic Team for the game's release. Sonic's first appearance came in Sega's AM3's racing game Radmobile from '91, 5 months before the release of Sonic the Hedgehog, as an ornament hanging from the driver's rearview mirror. The Sonic developers let AM3 use Sonic because they were interested in making him visible to the public. According to Mark Cerny, who worked in Tokyo as an intermediary between the Japanese and American Sega offices, the American staff felt that Sonic had no appeal. Although Katz was certain that Sonic would not be popular with American children, Kalinske arranged to place Sonic the Hedgehog as the pack-in game with the Genesis. Featuring speedy gameplay, Sonic the Hedgehog received critical acclaim. It greatly increased the popularity of the Sega Genesis in North America, crediting with helping Sega gain 65% of the market share against Nintendo. Naka was dissatisfied with his treatment at Sega and felt he received too little credit for his involvement in the success. He quit but was hired by Cerny to work at the US-based Sega Technical Institute, STI, with a higher salary and more creative freedom. Yasuhara also moved to the STI. STI began work on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, released in '92, in November of '91. Level artist Yasushi Yamaguchi designed Sonic's new sidekick Tails, a flying two-tailed fox inspired by the mythical kitsune, or kitsune. Like its predecessor, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a major success, but its development suffered from the language barrier and cultural differences between the Japanese and American developers. While STI developed Sonic 2, Oshima led a team in Japan to create Sonic CD for the Genesis's CD-ROM accessory, the Sega CD. It began as a port of the first game, but evolved into a separate project. Once development on Sonic 2 concluded, Cerny departed and was replaced by Roger Hector. CTI divided into two teams, the Japanese developers led by Naka, and the American developers. The Japanese began work on the Sonic the Hedgehog 3. It was initially developed as an isometric game using Sega Virtua processor chip, but was restarted as a more conventional side-scrolling game after the chip was delayed. It introduced Sonic's rival Knuckles, created by artist Takashi Yuda. Due to an impending promotion with McDonald's and cartridge size constraints, the project was split into two. The first half, Sonic 3, was released in February of '94, and the second, Sonic & Knuckles, a few months later. The Sonic & Knuckles cartridge contained an adapter that allowed players to connect it to Sonic 3, creating a combined game, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles, as with their predecessors, were acclaimed. To release a Sonic game in time for the '93 holiday shopping season, Sega commissioned the American team to make a new game, the spin-off Sonic Spinball. While Spinball received mixed reviews, it sold well and helped build the reputation of its developers. A number of Sonic games were developed for Sega's 8-bit consoles, the Master System, and handheld Game Gear. The first, an 8-bit version of the original Sonic, was developed by Ancient to promote the Game Gear and released in December of '91. Aspect Co. developed most of the subsequent 8-bit Sonic games, beginning with a version of Sonic 2. Other Sonic games released during this period include Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine from '93, a Western localization of the Japanese puzzle game Puyo Puyo from '91, Sega Sonic the Hedgehog '93, an arcade game featuring isometric gameplay, and the Knuckles Chaotix from '95, a spin-off for the Genesis's 32X, an add-on starring Knuckles. Following Sonic & Knuckles, Naka returned to Japan, having been offered a role as a producer. He was reunited with Oshima and brought with him Takashi Iizuka, who had worked with Naka's team at STI. Sonic Team was officially formed as a brand and began work on a new intellectual property, Nights into Dreams, from '96, for Sega's 32-bit Saturn console. In 1996, toward the end of the Genesis's life cycle, Sega released Sonic 3D Blast, an isometric game based on the original Sonic 3 concept, as the system still had a large install base. It was the final Sonic game produced for the Genesis and was developed as a swan song for the system. Since Sonic Team was preoccupied with Nights, 3D Blast was outsourced to the British studio Traveller's Tales. While 3D Blast sold well, it was criticized for its gameplay, controls, and slow pacing. Meanwhile, in America, STI worked on Sonic Extreme, a 3D Sonic game for the Saturn intended for the '96 holiday shopping season. Development was hindered by disputes between Sega of America and Japan, Naka's reported refusal to let STI use the Nights game engine, and problems adapting the series to 3D. After 2 lead developers became ill, Extreme was cancelled. Journalists and fans had speculated about the impact Extreme might have had if it had been released, with the producer Mike Wallace believing it definitely would have been competitive with the first 3D Mario game, Super Mario 64 from '96. Due to Extreme's cancellation, Sega ported Sonic 3D Blast to the Saturn, with updated graphics and bonus levels developed by Sonic Team. In '97, Sega announced Project Sonic, a promotional campaign aimed at increasing market awareness of and renewing excitement for the Sonic brand. The first project Sonic released was Sonic Jam, a compilation of the main Genesis Sonic games, which included a 3D overworld Sonic Team used to experiment with 3D Sonic gameplay. Sonic Team and Traveler's Tales collaborated again on the second Project Sonic game, Sonic R, a 3D racing game and the only original Sonic game for the Saturn. Yasuhara moved to London to assist Sonic R's development. Sonic Jam was well received, while Sonic R's reviews were a little more divided. The cancellation of Sonic Extreme, as well as the Saturn's general lack of Sonic games, are considered important factors in the Saturn's commercial failure. According to Nick Thrope of Retro Gamer, by mid-'97, Sonic had essentially been shuffled into the background. It was astonishing to see that just 6 years after his debut, Sonic was already retro. With its Sonic Jam experiments, Sonic Team began developing a 3D Sonic platformer for the Saturn. The project stemmed from a proposal by Iizuka to develop a Sonic role-playing video game, or RPG, with an emphasis on storytelling. Development moved to Sega's new console, the Dreamcast, which Naka believed would allow for the ultimate Sonic game. Sonic Adventure, directed by Iizuka and released in 1998, was one of the first 6th-generation video games. It introduced elements that became series staples, such as artist Yuji Yukawa's, I hope that's close, new character designs that were influenced by comics and animation. In 1999, Iizuka and 11 other Sonic Team members relocated to San Francisco and established Sonic Team USA to develop a more action-oriented Sonic Adventure 2 in 2001. Between the releases, Oshima had left Sega to form Artoon. While both adventure games were well received and the first sold over 2 million copies, consumer interest in the Dreamcast quickly faded, and Sega's attempts to spur sales through lower prices and cash rebates caused escalating financial losses. In January of 2001, Sega announced it was discontinuing the Dreamcast to become a third-party developer. Following this, Yasuhara left to join the Naughty Dog company. The following December, Sega released an expanded port of Sonic Adventure 2 for Nintendo's GameCube. Afterward, Sonic Team USA developed the first multi-platform Sonic game, Sonic Heroes, that was 2003, for the GameCube, Microsoft's Xbox, and Sony's PlayStation 2. It was designed for a broad audience, and Sonic Team revived elements not seen since the Genesis era, such as special stages and Chaotix characters. Reviews for Sonic Heroes were mixed. While its graphics and gameplay were praised, critics felt that it failed to address criticisms of previous Sonic games, such as the camera. Iizuka, who directed Heroes, later said that it was the most stressful experience of his career. He had lost 22 pounds due to the crunch conditions. Sonic Team ported Sonic Adventure with additional content to the GameCube in 2003 and Windows in 2004 to mixed reviews. Sega continued to release 2D Sonic games. In 1999, it had collaborated with SNK to produce Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure, an adaptation of Sonic 2 for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Some SNK staff formed DIMPS the following year and developed original 2D Sonic games, like Sonic Advanced in 2001, Sonic Advance 2 in 2002, and Sonic Advance 3 in 2004 for Nintendo's Game Boy Advance. Sonic Advance was the first original Sonic game released for a Nintendo console after Sega and Nintendo's fierce rivalry in the 1990s. It was outsourced to DIMPS because Sonic Team was understaffed with employees familiar with the GBA, Game Boy. DIMPS also developed Sonic Rush in 2005 for the Nintendo DS, which uses a 2.5D perspective. DIMPS projects received generally favorable reviews. To introduce older games to new fans, Sonic Team developed 2 compilations, Sonic Mega Collection in 2002 and Sonic Gems Collection in 2005. Further spin-offs include the party game Sonic Shuffle in 2000, the pinball game Sonic Pinball Party in 2003, and the fighting game Sonic Battle in 2003. Sonic Team USA was renamed Sega Studios USA after completing Sonic Heroes. Sega and Sonic Team leadership entered flux while they experimented with diverging from the Sonic formula. Sega Studios USA first post-Heroes project was Shadow the Hedgehog in 2005, a spin-off starring the popular Adventure 2 game character Shadow. While Shadow retains most elements from previous Sonic games, it was aimed at a mature audience and introduced third-person shooting and non-linear gameplay. Shadow the Hedgehog was panned for its controls, level design, and mature themes, but was a commercial success, selling at least 1.59 million copies. In 2006, the franchise's 15th anniversary, Sonic Team developed Sonic Riders, a GBA port of the original Sonic, and a reboot Sonic the Hedgehog commonly referred to as Sonic 06. With a darker and more realistic setting than previous entries, Sonic 06 was intended to relaunch the series for 7th-generation consoles, such as the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. The development faced serious problems. Naka, the last of the original Sonic development team, resigned as head of Sonic Team to form Probe, and the team split so work could begin on a Wii Sonic game. According to Iizuka, these incidents, coupled with stringent Sega deadlines, and an unpolished game engine, forced Sonic Team to rush development. None of the 15th anniversary Sonic games were successful critically, and Sonic 06 became regarded as the worst game in the series, panned for its bugs, camera controls, and story. Brian Shea of Game Informer wrote, "It became synonymous with the struggles of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise that had faced over the years. Sonic 06 was meant to be a return to the series' roots, but it ended up damning the franchise in the eyes of many." Backbone Entertainment developed 2 Sonic games exclusive to the PlayStation Portable, Sonic Rivals in 2006 and Sonic Rivals 2 in 2007. The first Sonic game for the Wii, Sonic and the Secret Rings in 2007, takes place in a world of Arabian Nights and was released instead of a port of Sonic 06. Citing lengthy development times, Sega switched plans and conceived a game that would use the motion detection of the Wii remote. Sega released a sequel, Sonic and the Black Knight, set in the world of King Arthur in 2009. The Secret Rings and Black Knight form what is known as the Sonic Storybook subseries. There are way too many S's in this. A Sonic Riders sequel, Zero Gravity, in 2008, was developed for the Wii and PlayStation 2. Dimps returned to the Sonic series with the Sonic Rush Adventure, a sequel to Sonic Rush, in 2007, while BioWare developed the first Sonic RPG, Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood, in 2008, also for the DS. Following Naka's departure, Akinori Nishiyama, who worked on the Sonic Advance and Rush games, became Sonic Team's general manager. Sonic Team began working on Sonic Unleashed in 2008. In 2005. It was conceived as a sequel to Adventure 2, but became a standalone entry after Sonic Team introduced innovations to separate it from the adventure games. With Unleashed, Sonic Team sought to combine the best aspects of 2D and 3D Sonic games and addressed criticisms of previous 3D entries, although reviews were mixed due to the addition of a beat-em-up game mode which Sonic transforms into a werewolf-like beast. After Nishiyama was promoted in 2010, Iizuka was installed as the head of Sonic Team and became the Sonic producer. Iizuka felt that Sonic was struggling because it lacked unified direction, so Sonic Team refocused on more traditional side-scrolling elements and fast-paced gameplay. Sonic the Hedgehog 4, a side-scrolling episodic sequel to Sonic & Knuckles, co-developed by Sonic Team and Dimps, began with Episode 1 in 2010, followed by Episode 2 in 2012. Later in 2010, Sega released Sonic Colors for the Wii and DS, which expanded on the well-received aspects of Unleashed and introduced the Wisp power-ups. For the series' 20th anniversary in 2011, Sega released Sonic Generations for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Windows. A separate version was developed by Dimps for the Nintendo 3DS. Sonic Generations featured reimagined versions of levels from previous Sonic games and reintroduced the classic Sonic design from the Genesis era. These efforts were better received, especially in comparison to Sonic 06 and Unleashed. In May of 2013, Nintendo announced it was collaborating with Sega to produce Sonic games for its Wii U and 3DS platforms. The first game in the partnership, 2013's Sonic Lost World, was also the first Sonic game for the 8th generation hardware. Sonic Lost World was designed to be streamlined and fluid in movement and design, borrowing elements from Nintendo's Super Mario Galaxy games and the cancelled Extreme. The second was Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games in 2013 for the Wii U, the fourth Mario and Sonic game, and a 2014 Winter Olympics tie-in. The deal was completed in 2014 with the release of Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric for the Wii U and Sonic Boom: Shattered Crystal for the 3DS. These games were based on the Sonic Boom television series. Sonic Lost World polarized critics, while critics found Mario and Sonic at the Sochi Olympic Winter Games mediocre and panned the Sonic Boom games. Sonic Boom Fire and Ice, a Shattered Crystal sequel, was released in 2016. Sega began to release more Sonic games for mobile phones, such as in iOS and Android devices. After Australian programmer Christian Taxman-Whitehead developed a version of Sonic CD for modern consoles in 2011, he collaborated with fellow Sonic fan Simon Stealth Thomley to develop remakes of the original Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for iOS and Android, which were released in 2013. The remasters were developed using Whitehead's retro engine, an engine tailored for 2D projects, and received praise. Sonic Dash in 2013, a temple run style endless runner, was developed by Hardlight. It downloaded over 350 million times by 2020 and received a Sonic Boom themed sequel in 2015. Sonic Team released Sonic Runners, its first game for mobile devices, in 2015. Sonic Runners was also an endless runner, but it was unsuccessful, and it was discontinued after a year of release. Gameloft released a sequel, Sonic Runners Adventure, in 2017 to generally positive reviews. In 2015, in an interview with Polygon, Iizuka acknowledged that contemporary Sonic games had been disappointing. He hoped from then on that the Sonic Team logo would stand as a mark of quality. He planned to release quality games and expand the Sonic brand while retaining the modern Sonic design. Iizuka and most of Team Sonic relocated to Burbank, California to oversee the franchise with a new team. At San Diego Comic-Con in July of 2016, Sega announced 2 Sonic games to coincide with the series' 25th anniversary, Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. Both were released for the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Windows in 2017. Sonic Mania was developed by the independent game developers Pagoda West Games and Headcanon, with a staff comprising of the Sonic fandom. Whitehead conceived the project and served as director. The game, which emulates the gameplay and visuals of the Genesis entries, received the best reviews for a Sonic game in 15 years. Meanwhile, Sonic Team developed Sonic Forces, which revives the dual gameplay of Sonic Generations along with a third-party gameplay style featuring the player's custom character. Sonic Forces received mixed reviews, with criticism for its short length. In 2009, Sega released a kart racing game, Team Sonic Racing, developed by Sumo Digital. In May of 2021, Sega announced several Sonic projects for the series' 30th anniversary, including a remaster of Sonic Colors, the compilation Sonic Origins, and the 2022 game Sonic Frontiers. Frontiers was the first Sonic game to feature an open-world design, and Iizuka expressed hope that it would inform future games in a similar way to Sonic Adventure. Frontiers received moderately positive reviews, with critics and fans considering it a flawed but solid new direction for the series, and sold well. The 2023 Sonic releases included The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, a free visual novel, Sonic Dream Team, an Apple Arcade exclusive 3D platformer, and Sonic Superstars, a 2.5D side-scrolling game featuring the classic Sonic design. Superstars was co-developed by Oshima's studio Arzest, and he designed a new character, his first contribution to the series since Sonic Adventure. Iizuka said that the 2D and 3D Sonic games would continue independently going forward, and Sonic Team would try to keep them as different as possible. 2024 Sonic Media emphasized Shadow the Hedgehog as part of Sega's Fearless Year of the Shadow campaign. This included the release of Shadow Generations, a short Shadow game bundled with a re-release of Sonic Generations, Shadow's themed events in the mobile games Sonic Dash and Sonic Forces Speed Battle, music from Shadow the Hedgehog in the Sonic Symphony World Tour, and Shadow playing a prominent role in the film Sonic the Hedgehog 3. The Sonic franchise is known for its large cast of characters. Sonic the Fighters in 1996 producer Yu Suzuki joked that anyone who makes a Sonic game has the duty to create new characters. The first game introduced Sonic, a blue hedgehog who can run at incredible speeds, and Dr. Eggman, a rotund mad scientist. During the Genesis era, Eggman was referred to as Dr. Ivo Robotnik in Western territories. Sega of America's Dean Sitton made the change without consulting the Japanese developers, who did not want a single character to have two different names. Since Sonic Adventure, the character has been referred to as Eggman in all territories, although the Robotnik name is still acknowledged. Sonic games traditionally follow Sonic's efforts to stop Eggman, who schemes to obtain the Chaos Emeralds, 7 gems with mystical powers. Side note here, the 7th Chaos Emerald was only introduced in Sonic 2. The first Sonic game only had 6 Chaos Emeralds. The emeralds can turn thoughts into power, warp time and space with a technique called Chaos Control, give energy to living things, and be used to create nuclear or laser-based weaponry. They typically act as MacGuffins in the stories. Eggman seeks the emeralds in his quest to conquer the world and traps animals and aggressive robots and prison capsules. Because Sonic Team was inspired by the culture of the 90s, Sonic features environmental themes. Sonic represents nature while Eggman represents machinery or development, a play on the then growing debate between environmentalists and developers. Much of the supporting cast was introduced in the succeeding games for the Genesis and its add-ons. Sonic 2 introduced Sonic's sidekick, Miles Tails Prower, a fox who can fly using his 2 tails. The Sonic CD introduced Amy Rose, a pink hedgehog, and Sonic's self-proclaimed girlfriend, and Metal Sonic, a robotic doppelganger of Sonic created by Eggman. Sonic 3 introduced Sonic's rival Knuckles, a red echidna and the guardian of the Master Emerald. The Master Emerald introduced in Sonic and Knuckles controls the power of the Chaos Emeralds. Knuckles' Chaotix introduced the Chaotix, a group comprising of Vector the Crocodile, Espio the Chameleon, and Charmy Bee. 3 characters introduced during this period, Mighty the Armadillo, Ray the Flying Squirrel from Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, and Fang the Sniper from Sonic Triple Trouble in 1994, faded into obscurity, but became prominent characters again in Sonic Mania and Superstars. During Sonic Adventure's development, Sonic Team discovered that the relatively simple character design did not suit a 3D environment. The art style was modernized to alter the characters' proportions and make them appeal to Western audiences. Since Sonic Adventure, the series' cast had expanded. Notable characters include Big, a large cat who fishes for his pet frog Froggy, the E100 series of robots, Shadow, a brooding black hedgehog, Rouge, a treasure-hunting bat, Blaze, a cat from an alternate dimension, and Silver, a telekinetic hedgehog from the future. The Chow creatures function as digital pets and minor gameplay elements, and Wisp creatures function as power-ups. Flicky, the blue bird from Sega's 1984 arcade game, appears in several Sonic games, particularly in 3D Blast. Some Sonic characters have featured in spin-off games. Eggman is featured as a character Eggman is the featured character of Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, a westernized localization of Puyo Puyo. Sega replaced the Puyo Puyo characters with Sonic characters because it feared Puyo Puyo would not be popular with Western audience. In 1995, Sega released the Knuckles spin-off, Knuckles Chaotix, for the 32X, and two Tails spin-offs for the Game Gear. Tails Sky Patrol, which was a side-scrolling shooter, and Tails Adventure, a Metroidvania-type game. Shadow the Hedgehog in 2005 was developed in response to the Shadow character's popularity and to introduce gun action gameplay into the franchise. Iizuka has said that future spin-offs, such as sequels to Knuckles Chaotix and Shadow the Hedgehog or the Big Cat game, remain possibilities. The Sonic series is characterized by speedy, platforming gameplay. Controlling the player character, the player navigates a series of levels at high speeds while jumping between platforms, fighting enemies and bosses, and avoiding obstacles. The series contains both 2D and 3D games. 2D entries generally feature simple, pinball-like gameplay with jumping and attacking controlled by a single button, and branching level paths that require memorization to maintain speed. Meanwhile, 3D entries tend to be more linear in design, feature various level objectives, different movesets, and allow players to upgrade and customize the playable character. Games since Sonic's Unleashed have blended 2D and 3D gameplay, with the camera shifting between side-scrolling and third-person perspectives. One distinctive game mechanic of Sonic games are collectible golden rings spread throughout the levels, which act as a form of health. Players possessing rings can survive upon sustaining damage, but the rings are scattered and the player has a short amount of time to recollect some of them before they disappear. Collecting 100 rings usually rewards the player with an extra life. Rings have other uses in certain games, such as currency in Sonic 06, restoring health bars in Sonic Unleashed, or improving statistics in Sonic Riders. Levels in Sonic games feature elements such as slopes, bottomless pits, and vertical loops. Springs, springboards, and dash panels are scattered throughout and catapult the player at high speeds in particular directions. Players' progress in levels is saved through passing by checkpoints. Checkpoints serve as other uses in various games, such as entering bonus stages. Some settings, particularly in Green Hill Zone, recur throughout the series. The series contains numerous power-ups, which are held in boxes that appear throughout the levels. An icon indicates what it contains, and the player releases the item by destroying the box. Common items in boxes include rings, a shield, invincibility, high speed, and extra lives. Sonic Colors introduce the Wisps, a race of extraterrestrial creatures that act as power-ups. Each Wisp has its own special ability corresponding to its color. For instance, yellow Wisps allow players to drill underground and find otherwise inaccessible areas. Since Sonic Rush, most Sonic games have featured boosting, a mechanic that immediately propels Sonic forward at top speed when activated. While boosting, Sonic can smash through objects, destroy enemies instantly, or access different level paths. This requires players to react to forthcoming obstacles quickly. Sonic Unleashed introduced sidestepping and drift maneuvers to allow players to maintain speed. Boosting is limited by a gauge that the player can fill with rings or wisps. In most Sonic games, the goal is to collect the Chaos Emeralds. The player is required to collect them all to defeat Eggman and achieve the game's good endings. Sonic games that do not feature the Chaos Emerald, such as Sonic CD, feature different collectibles that otherwise function the same. Players find the emeralds by entering portals, opening portals by using 50 rings, or scouting them within the levels themselves. Sometimes the emeralds are collected automatically as the story progresses. By collecting the emeralds, players are rewarded with their character's super form and can fly and activate it by collecting 50 rings in a stage. The super transformations grant the player more speed, farther jumps, and invincibility, but their ring count drains by the second. The transformation lasts until all the rings have been used. Some games require the player to collect all the Chaos Emeralds to reach the final boss. Sonic games often share basic gameplay, but some have game mechanics that distinguish them from others. For instance, Sonic's Chaotix is similar to previous entries in the series, but introduces a partner system whereby the player is connected to another character via a tether. The tether behaves like a rubber band and must be used to maneuver the characters. Sonic Unleashed introduces the Hedgehog, a beat-em-up gameplay style in which Sonic transforms into a werewolf-like beast and must fight enemies using brute strength. Both Sonic storybook games feature unique concepts. Secret Rings is controlled exclusively using the Wii Remote's motion detection, which Black Knight incorporates hack-and-slash gameplay. While some games feature Sonic as the only playable character, others feature multiple, who have alternate movesets and storylines. For instance, in Sonic and Knuckles, Knuckles goes through the same levels as Sonic, but his story is different. He explores different parts of the levels, and certain areas are more difficult. Many Sonic games contain multiplayer and cooperative gameplay, beginning with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. In some games, if the player chooses to control Sonic and Tails together, a second player can join at any time and control Tails separately. Sonic games also feature a split-screen competitive mode in which two players race to the end of the stages. For the original Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega commissioned Masato Nakamura, bassist and songwriter of the J-pop band Dreams Come True, to compose the soundtrack. Excuse me. Nakamura returned to compose Sonic 2's soundtrack. Dreams Come True owns the rights to Nakamura's score, which created problems when Sonic's Spinball team used the Sonic theme music without permission. The Sonic platformers released during the 1990s were acclaimed to have been listed among the greatest video games of all time. The original Sonic was touted as a faster, cooler alternative to Nintendo's Super Mario World in 1990. According to Kotaku's Zolani Stewart, Sonic's rebellious character was representative of the culture of the 90s, when the idea of the individual rebellion seemed inextricably linked to consumer culture. Writing in The Guardian, Keith Stewart observed that Sonic the Hedgehog's emphasis on speed departed from accepted precepts of game design, requiring that players learn through repetition rather than observation, as the levels aren't designed to be seen or even understood in one playthrough. Sonic is incorrect in game design, and yet it's a masterpiece. Sonic 2, Sonic CD, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles were praised for building on the first game's formula. In 1996, Next Generation described them as the zeitgeist of 16-bit era. Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the best-selling video game franchises. Its cumulative sales reached 89 million copies by March of 2011 and over 140 million by 2016. The Mario and Sonic series alone sold over 19 million copies as of 2011. The Sonic the Hedgehog games have grossed over $5 billion in sales by 2014. Series sales and free-to-play mobile game downloads have totaled $920 million by 2019, and more than $1.14 billion by 2020, over $1.6 billion by 2013, and over $1.77 billion by 2024. In 1993, Sonic tied with Mario as the highest-earning entertainment character of the year, each generating $500 million in digital game sales of that year. In the United Kingdom, Sonic was the sixth best-selling game franchise between 1996 and 2012. Individual Sonic games have been bestsellers as well. The original game is the best-selling Genesis game, while Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is the best-selling Game Gear game. Sonic CD is the best-selling Sega CD game, and Sonic Adventure is the best-selling Dreamcast game. Sonic Adventure 2 is the eighth best-selling GameCube game in the US, and the best-selling GameCube game that was not published by Nintendo. Upon release, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 set records for the fastest-selling game, selling out 3.2 million copies worldwide within 2 weeks in 1992. The original Sonic the Hedgehog earned over $400 million by 1997. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 grossed $450 million in 1992, becoming the year's highest-grossing home entertainment product. Primarily because of its Genesis bundling, Sonic the Hedgehog contributed greatly to the console's popularity in North America. Between October and December of 1991, the Genesis outsold its chief competitor, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, by a 2-to-1 ratio. At its January 1992 peak, Sega held 65% of the market for 16-bit consoles. Although Nintendo eventually reclaimed the number one position, it was the first time since December of 1985 that Nintendo had not led the console market. OneUp.com credited Sonic for turning the course of the 16-bit console wars, helping make Sega a dominant player and industry giant. One of the world's most popular video game characters by 1992, Sonic was more recognizable to children ages 6 to 11 than Disney's Mickey Mouse. In 1993, Sonic became the first video game character to have a balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and he was one of 4 characters inducted into the Walk of Fame in 2005, along Mario, Link, and Master Chief. Additionally, a Japanese team developing the radio and plasma wave investigation RPWI instrumentation for the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer spacecraft, that is a mouthful, to be launched by the ESA and Airbus in 2023, received approval to use Sonic as the mascot. Sonic and Eggman appear as minor characters in the Walt Disney Animation Studios films Wreck-It Ralph from 2012 and Ralph Breaks the Internet in 2018, while Sonic makes cameos in Ready Player One from 2018 and Chippendales Rescue Rangers from 2020. The Sonic Hedgehog gene, first identified for its role in fruit fly embryonic development, was named after Sonic. Robert Riddle, then a postdoctoral fellow at the Tabin Lab, came up with the name after his wife bought a magazine containing an advert for Sonic. A mutation in the gene causes fly larvae to bear spiky denticles reminiscent of Sonic's hair. Or spines, rather. Sonic Origins is a 2022 video game compilation. It features remasters of the first 4 platformer games in Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog series. Sonic the Hedgehog from 91, Sonic 2 from 1992, Sonic CD from 93, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles from '94, originally released for the Sega Genesis and Sega CD. The games are playable in their original format and a new widescreen format that removes lives. Origins adds additional game modes and missions which allow players to unlock content in a museum. Origins was conceived following the release of the 2020 Sonic film. Due to the influx of new fans, Sonic team head Takashi Iizuka wanted to make the older Sonic games available on modern hardware. The remasters of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2, and Sonic CD are based on the Retro engine, developed remakes released between 2011 and 2013, while Simon Thomley and his studio Headcanon, who worked on Sonic Mania from 2017, developed the remaster of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Jun Senoue, sorry if I pronounce that wrong, replaced a portion of the Sonic 3 soundtrack following speculation of licensing problems arising from Michael Jackson's involvement with Sonic 3. Origins was released digitally for the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Windows, Xbox One, and Xbox Series XS on June 23, 2022, the series' 31st anniversary. It received favorable reviews. Critics praised the enhancements and presentation, but criticized the downloadable content, or DLC, replaced music in Sonic 3, lack of features, and additional bugs not present in the original games. An expanded version adding new playable characters and the 12 Game Gear Sonic games, Sonic's Origins Plus, was released physically and as DLC for the original on June 23, 2023. Sonic Origins compiles and remasters the first 4 platform games in Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog series: Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic CD, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, originally released for the Sega Genesis and Sega CD. The player controls Sonic the Hedgehog, Miles, Tails, Prower, and Knuckles the Echidna as they attempt to stop Dr. Eggman from stealing the Chaos Emeralds. They traverse side-scrolling levels at high speeds while collecting rings, defeating enemies and bosses, and finding secrets. Unlike the originals, the player can control Tails and Knuckles in most of the games. Origin features 2 versions of each game: the Classic mode in its original format, presented in 4x3, while Anniversary mode features support for widescreen displays, replaces lives with coins, and allows Sonic to use the drop dash from Sonic Mania. Both modes use the Retro engine version of each game aside of the emulation of the original game in Classic mode. A story mode allows players to play through the 4 games sequentially as Sonic in Anniversary mode, with new animated cutscenes that bridge their stories, which are also seen when launching for the first time or clearing each game in either mode, respectively. When played through this mode, the games are in chronological story order, meaning that CD is played in between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, rather than after. New modes include a boss rush mode, a mirror mode that reverses the level layouts, and a mission mode featuring 60 additional standalone challenges, such as collecting a target number of rings within a time limit or reaching the goal without destroying any enemies. The Blue Spheres minigame from Sonic 3 and Knuckles is also included, along with an all-new version called New Blue Spheres, which adds additional sphere types from Sonic Mania. An in-game museum allows players to view a collection of music, artwork, and videos, including the Sonic Mania Adventures animated shorts, originally re-released into 2018. Players can unlock additional museum content such as musical arrangements from later games, concept art, and cutscene animatics by completing in-game achievements or spending coins that are earned through gameplay. Coins can also be spent on additional attempts in special stages. Players who pre-ordered the game start with 100 coins and mirror mode already unlocked, which is available after clearing each game for the first time. Menu aesthetics, a set of 11 harder missions, and tracks from Sonic Spinball, Knuckles Chaotix, and Sonic 3D Blast for the Museum Music Player are available as downloadable content. Sonic Origins was conceived alongside Sonic Colors Ultimate from 2021, following the release of the 2020 Sonic film. Because the film brought many new fans, Sonic team head Takashi Iizuka wanted to make the older Sonic games available on newer formats. Iizuka noted that though they are frequently re-released via emulation, they felt too retro on modern displays due to their 4:3 aspect ratios, and he wanted Origins to modernize them with widescreen support and new features to appeal to both new and longtime fans. Sonic Mania encouraged Sonic Team that there was still an audience for 2D Sonic games, and the series' 30th anniversary provided the perfect opportunity to develop a compilation. The compilation was developed internally at Sega, which handled the presentation and consolidation of the included games. The remasters of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2, and Sonic CD are based on the remakes made in the Retro Engine released between 2011 and 2013. Evening Star's Christian Whitehead, creator of the Retro Engine, updated it to allow the remakes to run in a compilation. The Origins team prioritized the main Sonic series so that they did not consider including other 2D Sonic games, such as those released for the Game Gear, Knuckles Chaotix, and the Sonic Advance series. Powerhouse Animation Studios produced the new cutscenes with longtime Sonic artist Tyson Hesse, with the script written by Sonic comic book writer Ian Flynn, and featured arranged music by Sonic Mania composer T. Lopez. Or Lopes, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, I'm sorry about that. Simon Thomley and his studio Headcanon, who worked on the Retro Engine remakes and Sonic Mania, developed the Origins remaster of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Thomley said that he was contracted to develop the remaster separately from Origins. The compilation marks Sonic 3 and Knuckles' first re-release since 2011, following speculation that soundtrack licensing problems would arise from Michael Jackson's involvement in Sonic 3, were preventing the new releases. As Sega was unable to use the soundtrack for Origins, Sonic team composer Jun Sonoue rearranged several tracks originally written for Sonic 3 prior to Jackson's involvement. They were previously featured in the 1997 Sonic & Knuckles collection for Windows. Thomley said that he and the Headcanon team were unhappy with the version of Origins that Sega had released, and that it did not represent Headcanon's work. He said they developed the Sonic 3 and Knuckles remaster under crunch conditions for a strict deadline, and that Sega would not delay it, and that Sega had introduced bugs when they integrated it into Origins. According to Thomley, the Headcanon team were outsiders creating a separate project that was then wrangled into something entirely different. Sonic Origins was announced during a live stream commemorating the Sonic franchise's 30th anniversary on May 27th in 2021 and was released on June 23, 2022. The series' 31st anniversary for the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Windows, Xbox One, and Xbox Series XS. Prior to release, Sega delisted the existing versions of the games for most digital stores. The move received criticism on video game preservation grounds and for preventing consumers from choosing their preferred versions. It was compared to Rockstar Games' delisting of Grand Theft Auto games before the release of the compilation Grand Theft Auto: The Trilogy, the definitive edition in 2021, a decision that was reversed following the backlash. On March 23, 2023, Sega announced an expanded version, Sonic's Origins Plus, released on June 23 of 2023, the game's first anniversary. The new content, which was released as both a physical edition and as a downloadable content for the digital version, adds Amy Rose as a playable character along with emulations of all 12 Sonic games for the Game Gear. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2, Sonic Chaos, Sonic Triple Trouble, Sonic Spinball, Sonic Blast, Sonic Labyrinth, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Sonic Drift, Sonic Drift 2, Tails Sky Patrol, and Tails Adventure. The expansion also makes Knuckles playable in Sonic CD and includes all of the previously released downloadable content. The physical release includes a reversible cover and a 20-page art book, as well as downloadable code of the Plus upgrade pack. Here's some of my personal experience with these Sonic games. So this was the first time I played the first Sonic game, Sonic the Hedgehog game, in over 30 years. We did not own the first Sonic game. We had Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic Spinball, which is a seriously underrated game in my opinion. I loved the music. I remember that my neighbor had the first Sonic game and the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge that you would insert the Sonic 2 game into the top of. During my play of Sonic 2, I was a little disappointed that I was unable to recreate the co-op play from the original Genesis cartridge. I purchased the Steam version, so I don't know if having two controllers worked the way I remember on the PlayStation or Switch. When I was young, my siblings and I would play together with two controllers, and I don't mean the two-player versus mode with the split screen. First controller was controlling Sonic, and controller 2 was as Tails. This was especially helpful during bonus levels for the last 3 Chaos Emeralds, flying Sonic into hard-to-reach areas, as well as beating some of the enemies and bosses, since Tails was able to come back to life in the same run, and his damage didn't take away from Sonic. So if you had 0 rings as Sonic, you could get hit as Tails and it wouldn't kill you. We would take turns being Sonic at every other life until that person lost all their lives and hit a continue, which started Sonic at the beginning of the level, or until all continues were used and the game restarted to Green Hill Zone 1, depending on how quickly that happened. I was able to get a second controller to work after this recording to co-op with Tails, and we collected the rest of the Chaos Emeralds and found a secret hidden palace zone, which was very exciting. Our total build time is 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 29 seconds. I was able to beat Sonic the Hedgehog 1 in 1 hour, 42 minutes, but with a bad ending. To get the good ending, you need to collect all of the Chaos Emeralds. And I got to the Aquatic Ruin Zone 2 in Sonic 2. If you enjoyed this comparison video and want to play the games, I do recommend playing the classic version if you want to get that true frustration and nostalgia feeling. Remember to like, subscribe, ring that bell, and do all the things for the YouTubes. Goodbye.